Hope that I hope it hears me fine. It looks like it should be fine. If anything, you can turn me up.
You're listening to the 220 podcast, 2 topics, 20 minutes. My name is Ezequiel Gutierrez. Thank you so much for listening and apparently now watching. Joining me in conversation today is a man who seems to, in every iteration of any podcast I've ever hosted, he's been there. Mr. Brenden Today, welcome back. Yeah. Have we co-hosted a podcast together? The Film Geeks podcast, was that you and
me? I think more or less it was us. We've done so much together over the years that it's just like it kind of mixes together. So I'm always happy to be a part of it, and if anything, I feel like we've always seen eye to eye on many things.
And
the conversation enjoyable.
If you want to watch some early YouTube show stuff with us, you can search Best Geek Vlog Ever on YouTube and watch a very young Ezequiel and Brenden hamming up talking about nerdy shit.
Yeah, like it was like 25 pounds ago.
For real. That's a better description. All right, we have a lot to get to and only 20 minutes in which to do this in. So let's talk about DC's Fandome. This was like
That's right.
The virtual Comic-Con that should have happened when Comic-Con happened. Comic-Con at home. Obviously, Comic-Con didn't happen this year because of the pandemic, so they tried to do an at-home thing, which kind of middled out reviews. Like, not a lot of great things did I hear coming out of that Comic-Con thing. So DC seemed to like take note and did this very interesting virtual showcase for all the upcoming stuff they have in across all mediums. The big highlights of that were first looks at three big film projects. Right. The Snyder Cut of the Justice League, the new Wonder Woman film, and then the biggest one, in my opinion, is our first look at Robert Pattinson as the Batman in Matt Reeves' Batman.
Plus James Gunn's The Suicide Squad.
That's right.
Some footage off of that too. So yeah, I would say that those are the biggest things. In addition to the newest game from Rocksteady Studios, which are the same people who made the Arkham series, and their counterparts in Warner Brothers Montreal for their game called Gotham Knights, not Arkham Knight, but Gotham Knights. That's supposed to come out next year and the year after, respectively. Not a whole lot of time to talk about those topics, but general
excited about both.
Yeah, I would say I'm excited about both of them for sure. Definitely going to play them. Gotham Knights being notable because it's the Court of Owls rumored game that was supposedly coming. And exciting for the Suicide Squad game from Rocksteady because they're going into co-op, and it's the continuation of the Arkham universe, even though it's not centered around Batman.
And that was an interesting tidbit because if you looked at these two games, you would think right off the bat that Gotham Knights would be a continuation of the Arkham Knight, Arkham City, Arkham games because it takes place in the same spot with the Bat family. But then to hear that the Suicide Squad is more a continuation of those games, essentially, is super fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's another one of those blows to Warner Brothers Montreal of like, listen, Rocksteady owns the Arkham series, or Arkham series, but it's like, well, we made a game in the series too. Did you though?
Did you? That was Batman Origins, right? Arkham Origins.
Yeah, Arkham Origins.
Yeah, I think
that's kind of the way that Rocksteady looks at it. Like, are you sure you made a game in our series? But yeah, that's beside the point. I think I don't really care very much about the Snyder Cut. It's interesting. I'll see it. I definitely understand that, Zack Snyder had to leave Justice League. For those who don't know, he suffered a personal tragedy when making the movie back in 2017. There are many different reports that he may have already been on his way out of production to begin with, but that just kind of like sealed the deal. And Joss Whedon took over for reshoots, which apparently are significant, including Mustache Gate, which is the whole Henry Cavill mustache removal. Yeah. Don't have time to get into that, but just so that you're all caught up.
The Mustache Gate is its own podcast.
It's its own podcast, but Snyder was able to come back now and restore his version of it, kind of like the Richard Donner cut of Superman 2, with the existing footage that he did shoot in his intent to showcase, basically, the Justice League. Interesting, but I didn't really love Batman v Superman. I liked Man of Steel, and I really did not care for Justice League. So
yeah,
his version could improve it. I might still not like it personally.
I honestly, looking at the footage, I've only seen Justice League, I think, twice, and I think it is. I actually think it's a much more fun thing, than the previous two movies, which were very, very dark. Like the tones are totally different, sure. And I think that's because of Aquaman and Flash, who I think Aquaman is like the unsung hero of this film that gives it its sort of humor and light. But I honestly, watching the trailer for the Justice League, I was like, I don't know what's different. Like
really?
I'm not even remotely, do I remember the Justice League enough to even see something and be like, oh, was that not in the original film? Like, I think Steppenwolf, the villain from Justice League, looks shinier in this version.
He does.
And then I guess the main villain wasn't in the original. I don't.
Yeah, Darkseid didn't show up in person.
So I was
I mean, they do seem like
cool.
minor tweaks compared to what we got. So it's like,
so we'll see.
Great.
I mean, it's on HBO Max, so we'll see it.
Yeah, for sure.
So
and then,
Wonder Woman's big reveal. So first of all, that trailer improves upon even the first really great trailer. That entire scene where she rides the lightning is like absolutely the coolest thing. But we've got Steve Trevor is back in a big way. But the biggest thing is Kristen Wiig. I've been dying to see, like, Kristen Wiig is playing essentially a villain in a huge comic book adaptation that is super fascinating on its own. And she plays Cheetah, the villain Cheetah, which I know very little about. I honestly wasn't expecting a full-on like version of Cats in this film, but I'm kind of here for it. Like if we're ranking the things I want to see, it's like Batman and then Wonder Woman and then the Snyder Cut. So I guess that's something good.
She's not going to bust out her version of Memory, All Alone in the Moonlight.
Right.
She's going to like fight Wonder Woman, which is also cool because Kristen Wiig's not really known for being a serious actor.
Great casting. I'm super psyched that they went with someone totally against type for this.
Yeah, but I think
we've seen it before. We've seen that work before. Heath Ledger.
Good.
Yeah, I'm psyched.
That's true. But you know what makes me sad is Heath Ledger's portrayal was 12 years ago. Wow. 12. Like, there's a whole kid that's like probably this tall.
Right.
That was born the year it came out. So I feel like our ability to quote that is starting to sound like, remember when Jack Nicholson was the Joker? Yeah, I remember that. That was better. We're those guys now.
We're those guys now. Yep.
So anyway, I mean, Wonder Woman 84 was supposed to come out, I think, last month in July.
Wow.
And got delayed because of COVID.
Crazy.
And according to the news in DC Fandome, that's still to be determined when it's coming out in theaters, but they're holding out for theaters.
Sure.
But yeah, again, really exciting to see Wonder Woman back in the big screen again.
Yeah.
First one was amazing. 3 years from the last one seems like such a long time, and now it's going to go on to like maybe 4 years if it comes out next year. That's a long time without a Wonder Woman movie. So, let's bring it on.
We need more of it. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh shoot, was it actually 2016? I think it was 2016 when it came out because Justice League was 2017. Oh boy.
Oh boy. It's been a long time.
Anyway.
Okay, but it hasn't been a long time with Batman on the screen.
Batman.
So besides Ben Affleck reprising his role in probably a somewhat minor spot for the new Flash movie, that's like its whole thing. We finally get a first look at Robert Pattinson in Matt Reeves' Batman, and oh my god, I am psyched, dude. Like, and this has nothing to do with. I like Ben Affleck as Batman. I really did like his interpretation. I think he brought something interesting. to that role. But when they cast Robert Pattinson, I'm gonna pat myself on the back. I'm sure you were that way too, telling people, bro, Robert Pattinson is a great choice of an amazing actor. Like Twilight was like 20 years ago. Like you can all stop talking about that stuff like it's
just like
an
how
issue.
we're supposed to stop talking about Heath Ledger.
Right. Like, well, that's different. That's different. So I think that this looks phenomenal. And I think for the first time, this trailer, the big reveal of him, where he beats the snot out of that dude, and then with the like, who are you? And he says, I'm vengeance. That scared me. Like I was legitimately in their point of view going, this Batman terrifies me. And I'm like, bingo, you nailed it. You nailed exactly what the Batman should be.
You should instill fear. Yeah, I mean, the behind-the-scenes photos that were leaking, I was like, you need to see the costume in its full grandeur. You're not going to see him without a cape. You're not going to see him with the weird eye thing. Right. A couple thoughts on it for me. Number one, I was really holding out for white eyes. Like, I just want a version of Batman that looks like a comic book in that sense. Because, like, we've never had it, and I don't need to see his eye makeup. And you know, they're actually showing that. I really like the eye makeup.
It's the first time we've really seen this.
I'm just saying, like, they're doing it for Deadpool, where it makes no sense. He puts on the mask, and all of a sudden his eyes are just plain white, and they never address it. Don't address it with Batman. Like, just do the same thing.
You're talking about
really
like,
holding up for
Christian Bale, we do get in the Dark Knight, we do get the white eyes, but it's because he's got a special suit.
Yeah.
So
but that's what I'm saying.
About that. You're talking about
I
that.
want
like a
that.
Spider-Man, Batman. You don't Spider-Man, Deadpool.
Exactly.
No eyes.
Yeah. Look.
White.
Exactly. And I just want that in the costume because I think the design looks great. That would be just the cherry on top, and every time they're just holding back the cherry from me, and just like eventually it'll happen. It's kind of like the feeling that I had when they showed Ben Affleck in the armored suit, which looks spot on to like Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I want that for the main costume. That's what I want.
I understand.
And it didn't happen. The other thing that I noticed is supposedly this trailer starts with this duct tape guy who's strangling someone or has already killed someone and tapes their face up. Two things on that. Number one, they're saying it's Paul Dano's Riddler.
Yeah.
And it's a very different take on the Riddler. And then they show the clues that he's left behind, which are very Riddler. The thing that concerns me, the second thing, is that in the latest animated movie, well, it's not the latest anymore, actually, the adaptation of Batman Hush to the animated universe, they made a huge change to the book, which I apologize for anyone who might want to read it, and there's a spoiler, kind of. But the whole point of the story is to figure out who this new character Hush is. Hush is this guy who's got bandages wrapped around his face.
That's right.
And he keeps pretending to be different villains from Batman's Rogues Gallery. You know, at a certain point, he impersonates Jason Todd. He gets Clayface involved. Yes, that's the one right there, Batman Hush. And the reveal at the end is somebody who you don't expect in the book, but in the animated movie, they change it to be the Riddler. And I hated it. It was just like, so the guy beneath the mask has just been the Riddler this whole time. That's what you're going with. And maybe it's just because, you know, like one of my tattoos is, and you can't really see it, I guess, is
you can blend it out.
is a Batman. Like, it's just one of my favorite stories, probably the one that got me back into the comics as an adult. And, you know I can't be precious about it because the story that I love still exists, but it's not my preferred version of Hush. And what I'm really concerned about is that tape around his face means that they're doing a version of Hush where it's duct tape instead of bandages, and it is the Riddler again instead of the guy who it actually is in the comic. And I would just be disappointed if that's the case. Like, for the first opportunity to get this new character you've never seen in a movie before into the movie, and then you make it an existing villain, that's disappointing.
I can see that. I can see that being frustrating. Sure.
Yeah. Aside from that, though, Zoe Kravitz looks great. Colin Farrell is unrecognizable.
I thought it was Colin Firth.
Right? And the shots look gorgeous. Like there are
Matt Reeves, man, he's
just
so good.
Well composed shots that look interesting. That again, Batman v Superman didn't really do it for me. It just that aesthetic is different and more engaging. So I definitely am hyped for that movie.
Yep, lot to look forward to. We only have a few more minutes now, so let's move on to our second topic, which is Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton.
So Disney Plus recently released, due to the pandemic, the live concert film or live Broadway film of Hamilton should have been released in theaters, but was
going to be released in theaters next year, actually.
Yeah. So not only did they not release it in theaters, they moved it up and gave it to subscribers of Disney Plus. I mean, we won't talk about what Hamilton is. You should know this by now. But I gotta say,
you've probably seen it by now.
The Disney Plus thing is remarkable. It's incredible. You've seen it?
I've seen it several times.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that is an advantage to Disney Plus and releasing this way, because a lot of people are watching it over and over again. One of the biggest takeaways I've heard is that Disney Plus was needing another big hit like this. Mandalorian got it started off well, but they needed something else to be kind of like that 1-2 punch to get people to sign up without question. Definitely Hamilton has that cultural appeal, that big box office draw almost to a streaming service, and it definitely made me want to sign up, which, by the way, that reminds me, I need to change my virtual background for
change
purposes.
That thing. Bam. Nice.
So yeah, I mean, myself included, I intentionally did not listen to any of the soundtrack before I had a chance to see it.
Wow.
And I knew that was going to be a long time coming because seeing it live wasn't really possible. And then once they announced the film, I was like, dope, the timer has started.
Yeah.
So when they moved it up, I'm like, this is just how I wanted to experience it.
What a treat.
And it didn't disappoint.
Yeah.
It definitely, I had to watch it more than once in order to fully appreciate it, which totally saved me money, because had you done that in the regular
you'd
theater,
been broke.
Oh boy, let's go see it 3 more times. Just not practical.
I have a childhood friend of mine who I think saw it 5 or 6 times at the Richard Rodgers, with I think 3 times with the original cast. I'm like,
who's this person and how can I borrow money from him or her?
Yeah. I think
need
you
a
probably
small personal
saw a few
loan
of them
of $1
with the
million.
lottery, and it wasn't like scalper tickets. I think the first couple times were early on in its run, so it wasn't drawing massive crowds. Lucky.
Well, I'm sure it was drawing crowds, just maybe not worth $1,200 a ticket or whatever it is now.
Yeah.
But we don't need to gush over it too much. Yeah. It's just a matter of I was curious, has someone like yourself who's seen, or not seen, you did see it in person years ago, and you had heard the music before going in. That's a completely different experience for me, watching it on streaming service for the first time, hearing the music for the very first time whilst also seeing it. How do you feel like it compares?
So I've been pretty much infatuated with the music since the get. Actually, that same friend, her name is Whitney Porter. She introduced me to the music. I was immediately obsessed with it. And, over the course of the time that I listened to it to the time I got a chance to actually see it at the Pantages in Hollywood, I knew, like most people, I knew every line. And I actually, because I had never approached a musical like that, and I love Broadway musicals and love going to live things like that, I kind of thought maybe that had taken away from it. Going into it knowing pretty much the entire story and all that stuff. And then quickly reminded why live theater is live theater. Because you can learn every song and think you know everything, and then you get this in front of you, and it is breathtaking. We obviously didn't see it with the original cast. Seeing it on stage, I felt like I had just an even stronger connection with it, because I was expecting things, and then the way they, obviously for anyone who has seen it, it's almost identical. It's a totally unexpected thing to then see on top of the music you already love. So seeing it live was like an incredible experience. I highly suggest the opportunity. Like, I don't know if you feel like you now, even though you've seen it on Disney Plus with the original cast, if you feel like you need to go out and see it live. I think that the Disney Plus thing does a very good job capturing, because now I've seen it again, because I hadn't seen it, obviously I'd only seen it the one time. So seeing it again on Disney Plus, I was psyched, because I was like, yes, I get to see this again. They did it so well. It does feel like you're there. Like, it really felt like, one, I'm seeing it with the cast that I hear in my head all the time. And so then to see them, I'm just like, this is a remarkable, I honestly think it's one of the best pieces of art I've ever come across, like seen, heard, experienced. It is like defining, like, so the folks that film this thing absolutely capture everything that you'd want from it. Now there's a difference between seeing it live, obviously, but they're like 98% there. Like, they're really close. I also watch it kind of all the time. It's just on in the background.
Yeah, I mean, it's
like
kind of the funny thing about it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, the funny thing about it is, like, it is kind of like one of those albums in your playlists that you're just like going to. Like, do I feel like 90s? Do I feel like 80s? Do I feel like Hamilton? I think I'm going to go with Hamilton, and I'm just going to play it. And I think the smart thing about making the musical all music, which is not characteristic of every musical,
sung through,
completely sung, is that it flows so much that when one song ends, the next song already begins, and it's kind of teased up so well that you can't really interrupt the flow. So before you know it, oh crap, I've listened to the whole album again and again and again. That part about it surprised me. So on that same note, I'm curious for you, again, as someone who's been a fan for longer than I have, what are your top, like, 3 songs from the show, if you had to pick 3?
No, I can tell you exactly where it starts. It starts at Guns and Ships. And ends at Dear Theodosia.
Is that 3 songs in order, or is it
4
just
or 5? It's an entire like, I see it, even though I've seen it live and I've seen it on Disney Plus a bajillion times.
Yeah.
I see the film version of it in my head, because that's just how my brain works. So I'm not thinking about what I've seen on stage. I'm thinking, if it were a filmed piece of fiction, how would I do this? And it's this incredible scene where they're fighting, and then the kind of in that section, I feel like the movie has the play, those songs have a first, second, and third act. Like, it just, there's a completely full story in those 5 or 6 songs right in the middle. I'm starting to also appreciate, on several watch throughs, the 3 female characters in a way that I did not the first time around, because I was so enamored with Lin-Manuel just as a human person in general that I didn't give much of the rest of the cast like their due. And I think that the women who play Peggy, Angelica, and Elizabeth Schuyler, they're the most incredible singers ever. Like, ever. Like, not just on Broadway. They have the best voices, and they're the best. Like, they harmonize so well. They're the best. Like, when I watch the thing on Disney Plus now, I repeat their whole, like, Satisfied. I love watching them, is like a treat. It's a freaking treat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, my top 3 are probably Take a Break, which is when he's trying to deny himself the pleasures to go with his wife and his sister-in-law and his family up to take a vacation. Definitely the King George stuff. So
man.
I would say you love all three of them together, but I would definitely say the first one where he does this little shoulder thing.
Yes.
And then, you got to give it up for the single, which is, that was the thing that surprised me, is that I had heard My Shot beforehand.
Yeah.
And I was just like, they're leading off with this song? I didn't realize. I thought it was going to be later in the show.
Yeah. It sets the tone, man.
Yeah, and it's shocking, and it's so well done, like you said, and very enjoyable. It captures this revolutionary spirit, and it captures the moment now. It's so transcendent, I think is the right word. But there was one thing that came up upon many rewatches that I want to know if you picked up on, and I want to know if I'm just kind of crazy, but in the opening number, which I don't think is a spoiler because it's Alexander Hamilton, you can hear it. It's kind of like how the thing got started, where Lin-Manuel went to the poetry jam at the White House back in 2008, 2009, whatever it was.
Yeah, Obama.
Obama. and so in the original poetry version, he only speaks as if he's Aaron Burr. But in the play, he changes it to the whole cast. Yeah. There's a part at the end of Alexander Hamilton where everybody says kind of how they know him.
I fought him, I died for him, I loved him.
Yeah, we fought with him, I died for him, I trusted him, I loved him, and I'm the damn fool that shot him. The guys who say we fought with him are the guys who play both the Madison and Jefferson, as well as Lafayette and Hercules Mulligan. They fought with him both alongside and against him, right?
Genius.
The guy who died for him plays both his son and also
John Lawrence.
Lawrence.
Yeah.
Both of them die,
yeah,
right? And they both die for him. The girls who say they loved him, all three of them play either his wife, his sister-in-law, another sister-in-law, and also his mistress, who loved him. And I was just like, did they do that on purpose? Is that something that they thought of ahead of time, or is that just me?
No, totally thought out.
Okay.
I think there's I think I'll send you. I think there's a podcast where he talks about the process of that.
Sure, because I was like,
so good.
That's insane. I totally missed that the first time. Yep. Missed it the second time, probably the third or fourth time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But by the time you get back to it and you start familiarizing yourself with even the cast, my God, everything. Just everything.
It's an exceptional piece of art. Exceptional.
Right.
Yeah.
So many layers. It's like an onion.
It's
like an ogre.
Peel it back. Just peel it back. Okay.
But anyway,
I guess Shrek reference and a Hamilton conversation.
I guess the main point is go watch Hamilton on Disney Plus. Not a paid sponsorship.
Yeah, not at all. But totally sponsored that sponsorship.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for coming on and talking about that stuff with me, sir.
Oh yeah, sure. It's my pleasure.
This is the 220 podcast. Thanks for listening.